Morning, everyone. I just did my first harvest chat. My friend Carrie in the Roussillon is prepping for harvest. They're going to be in about 2 weeks. And we had a nice discussion about Macabeu in Catalan. So check that out. And I also want to, I'm excited to be I'm going to be at Chateau Lafite Rothschild in Pauillac in Bordeaux on September 21. So harvest at Lafite on September 21. Mark your calendars at 10 o'clock in the morning. And then later today, I'm going to be in Provence with Chateau Sainte Rosaline. So busy day over here. My last day in Connecticut. I'm getting a little sad. I'm going back to the city tomorrow. And there's Rutger. So here we are going to Virginia. Hello, Rutger.
Hi, Jeff. How are you?
Very well. I understand it's raining over there.
Oh, it is. It's actually usually rain during the growing season isn't a good thing, and I wouldn't be smiling, but actually today we kind of are looking forward to a little bit of rain. Nice drizzle. So the plants were a little bit under some hydraulic stress, so we welcome the wet rain. So it's kind of unusual to be saying that on the East Coast. Usually it's our nemesis, so no, I'm smiling today.
That's good. And I want to hear about it because your team was telling me that part of Virginia is just the kind of unpredictable weather and the rains. So I do want to go into that I want to ask you about Virginia in general. But can you first tell us your story? I mean, your personal story, I think it should be a TV show or something because you're but tell us your background and how you got into wine and what spurred you to get into the wine business, but also background.
Well, this could be a long, this could be a long answer, but I'll just really briefly, Jeff. After college, I went into the Marine Corps and spent 4 years there. And then most of my friends ended up in the business world. I kind of followed suit. But after, I think, 3 years in the office, I realized, hey, this isn't my calling. I need to be working outside, working with my hands, being in the sun, sweating, and realized that change needed to be made. And that was like in 2000. And I kind of explored all different venues, but my parents are both Dutch, and I grew up in most of my childhood in Europe, and wine was always part of the table, and I was kind of fascinated with it. And so I started exploring that route, and finally met a consultant, and she really highly recommended working and apprenticing at a winery. And she gave me 2 names, Jim Law at Linden and Luca at Barboursville, and I ended up at Jim's place. And that was in 2001, and within the first week of working there, I fell in love and knew I was bitten by the bug, and that was a calling of mine.
Yesterday, I chatted with Valerie Feister in Alsace, and she said she knows you, I think, from a time you're both at Cheval Blanc.
Yes, the wine world's a small world, Jeff. Yeah, no, Melanie and I were interns in. I worked twice at Cheval Blanc in 2002, but this was 2005.
Okay.
So both of us were connected. She was a student at the University of Bordeaux and worked for Kees van Leeuwen, who was the consultant at Cheval Blanc. He's a fellow Dutchman, and he brought me on. And he recently, we always taste wines blind when we go to Bordeaux, and about a year ago he served me a Riesling, and it was from her property. It was a real honor. So it's great that you talked to her. She's a wonderful person.
She's fascinating. We didn't have a good connection, so we're going to do it again. But she's lovely and really, really good wine. I had her Riesling last night. It's delicious. So then, can you tell us the background of RdV Vineyards?
So then, so after working for Jim just one harvest, I realized that this was my calling, and I wanted to do this. It's somewhat similar, to people said, "Oh, the Marine Corps, how does that translate?" But the Marine Corps really taught me kind of to follow your passion, and it wasn't a job; it was a way of life. And I quickly realized, working with Jim, that was the same thing. And everyone, from Melanie to people I meet, is in the wine industry. It's more than just job. It's kind of a passion. So I decided that I wanted to pursue this, and I jumped in full-heartedly and traveled around the world and kind of decided that I wanted to be at a place where good wine was being made, but we could take it to the next level. And there's something about Virginia, but I also looked at the Sonoma Coast area. I looked north of in Santa Barbara, but Virginia kept pulling me back. And in 2004, I found this, what I call now a magical granite hillside.
Okay.
And we knew from the work that Jim Law, like I said, Lyndon, who was my mentor, and Luca in Barboursville, that they already started in the late '80s. That with all the knowledge that we have gained in the last 20, 25 years, that we could continue the trajectory upwards. So we kind of followed that, and I was very lucky. I got a great team from Bordeaux and a great team also from California. I don't know if you know Daniel Roberts. He works with David Ramey. They call him Dr. Dirt, but he helped lay out the vineyard. And then I got Case and more Jean-Philippe, who is a colleague of Case, to help. So we had kind of this world-class team helping us develop RdV. And we planted then in 2004, bought the land, planted in 2006, and then 2008 was our first kind of small vintage, and we're celebrating now our 10-year anniversary. I know it's been quite a ride.
So it's actually, you never get a chance to talk to somebody who actually started. I mean, you cleared land, chose the site, you said, for the granite. And then, I mean, you have experts, so you decide what grapes you're going to grow, whether you're going to have the rows go north, south, east, west. Can you talk a little bit about what that entails? I mean, you had your experts.
Yeah, so I kind of like, I never went to school for it. So, but I think for me, I learned very quickly on the job. So, having the opportunity to work at places like Cheval Blanc, Chateau Lagrange, David Ramey, visiting all those different, wonderful wineries. And also, I think in the wine world, everyone's so open with their knowledge and sharing that. So I felt like my learning trajectory was up, but more importantly, I got some really great consultants who loved the project. I told Daniel, hey, Daniel, if you make great wine, he was not bragging, boasting of how many 100-point Parker wines he was involved with. I said, well, if you can do it on the East Coast, that will really impress me and impress everyone. So, but everyone loved the challenge. And I think there's something about Virginia that's kind of special. I don't want to say it's really the birthplace, but I think in a certain way it is the birthplace of American viticulture and enology. Not only our president, Thomas Jefferson, a lot of the founding fathers tried to dabble in wine, but also the colonists way back when they tried to plant grapes. So I think there's a deep, rich history. There's something fun about Virginia, and all the consultants I talked to welcomed the challenge. So we brought their knowledge in. And it's interesting, Jeff, because I never forget my Jancis Robinson came and visited here, and she said, "What's your favorite wine?" And I said, "Oh, Côte Vôtie, I really love. I think to me it has the balance of the elegance and finesse of Pinot Noir, Burgundy, but at the same time it has a little bit more grit, a little more tannin, kind of a little more the kingly stature, I would say, of Bordeaux, and it has the best of both worlds." She said, "Why do you plant Syrah?" I said, well, if I planted Syrah, Jancis, I love risk. I'm doing it kind of in a new, unfounded region. We definitely had some people doing it already, but with one grape variety, that's just too much, And what beautiful about the Bordeaux varieties is the Merlot. She comes in about 2 weeks. Everything's different timing, so she's about 2 weeks earlier than Cabernet Sauvignon. So it mitigated a little bit of the risk. Okay. So that's how we ended up with those varieties, and then. We worked with the consultants from Bordeaux and from Napa, but it wasn't to try and make a Napa wine or a Bordeaux wine here in Virginia. It was just really trying to understand best practices. Instead of saying, "Hey, you do your rows north-south and we copy you," it was more like, "Why? Like, help me understand." Well, you want to have you want to have a little bit more morning sun because it's not as bright as the afternoon sun. So you don't want to go quite north-south. You want to turn it a little bit, northeast, southwest. So we kind of learned the principles rather than just mimicking what they did.
Yeah. Wow. So what all grapes do you grow then?
So we have 16 acres under vine. They're all red grape varieties from Bordeaux. Most of it, I think, I don't know exact percent, but over 50% is Cabernet Sauvignon. And that really, if we can get that grape right, and it's a little bit more, I don't want to say finicky, but it really requires the right soils and really kind of wants to struggle. And with our rain, typically in our growing season, it's hard to kind of quiet that plant down and have it struggle a little bit. But we have about half of that in Cabernet Sauvignon. And then the other two big ones is about 20% of Cabernet Franc and Merlot. And then we have just one block of Petit Verdot, our what we call it, the Cajun spice or the cayenne spice. It's a very powerful grape, and very little goes a long way.
Yeah, for sure. So to step back and give a kind of an overview about Virginia wine, maybe a little history, and then what else is happening, and is it all kind of a wine region all tight together in Virginia, or is it spread out? And just a little overview of Virginian wine.
Well, so the history goes way back when to the colonists and then the founding fathers. But I think for me, what I would call the modern history of Virginia kind of started, I think, with Barboursville and Linden Vineyards. And Barboursville, so there are definitely different pockets. And like RdV is in the northern pocket, but then you have the area 2 hours south of Charlottesville, and that's where Barboursville is. But they're all, then you have in southern Virginia, numerous wineries too. So it's kind of spread around the state.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it'd be unfair to say it's all collective, but both Barboursville and Linden are the ones who started, I'd say, the modern kind of era of where we are today. And to be honest, when I started in 2000, you could go to some tasting rooms, Jeff, and taste the wine and go, oh my gosh, why does my red wine taste like soap? They were flawed wines being made. It was being truthful, right? But this is in early 2000, and it was still very hobbyist. It was kind of people really exploring. And to me, we've gone through a whole, in the last 20 years, revolution in the sense of now, when people say, oh, Virginia wines are terrible, I challenge anyone, go find me a bad wine. You know, that the wines now are, people have learned in the vineyard a lot more, but more importantly in the wine making. So we make clean wines. So it's very, it's exciting that way. And we are really now, I think, taking the next step forward is trying to find the right sites where to plant the grapes. And I think that that's kind of an important evolution. It's taken a little bit of time. And in one way, it's a blessing and a mixed curse. A friend of mine who grew grapes in Oregon said, I remember very much Virginia was like Oregon. But there was one key difference. I said, oh, what is that? And he said, in Virginia, you have a marketplace. And basically, we have the Washington, D.C. area, the Charlottesville area. So people come out to the tasting room. So it's very exciting and very easy. In Oregon, they didn't have that much. So they were all of a sudden obliged to right away go to distribute their wines. And when you start entering that, all of a sudden you are competing with Burgundy, with Napa, and you really have to focus on the quality. And we kind of at the beginning, or it's changing now, but focus really on the experience. And hospitality still plays a big role of our wines and tasting rooms, or where most of the wines are sold. But we're trying to really figure out what are the right sites, and there are a bunch of new wineries coming on board doing that. So it's an exciting time, and I would be the first to say RdV found a very special site, mm-hmm. but it's not unique. There are many more great sites in the state of Virginia.
I was talking to a Somm from DC a while back, and I can't remember the exact conversation, but he was saying that the restaurants in DC in particular are very supportive of Virginia wine. And for me being in New York, it's just a corner. People were really hesitant about Finger Lakes and Long Island, but the past maybe 2-3 years, people are really excited and behind it. Has that been the case in?
Yeah.
And
your story is exactly mimicked with our story. When I started, and I can make fun of him now, he's a chef, Eric Siebold, and he's become a good friend of mine. And he was at probably the best restaurant at the Mandarin City's End. He was a chef there. And when we released our wines, I don't want to say he had nothing to do with it, but I remember calling and saying, "Hey, chef, I want to show you wines." As soon as I said the word Virginia, it was click. I hung up, and finally, after 3 or 4 hang-ups, I finally went to his restaurant. I said, "Bring my samples," and convinced him to come out and visit us. And he came with his sommelier, and wow, I didn't know if Virginia could do this. And now that's changed. And I just went for the first time out for dinner last night to a local restaurant. And I was just amazed at all the Virginia wines on the list. So, and I think it's important, and I agree with Eric, is you don't want to put just local wines on the list because they're local. They have to be good, and I think, he strives, he's got, Michelin stars, in 2 of his restaurants. So, he wants always the top quality. So you can't just put local because you say, well, I got local ingredients. No, it has to be worthy also. And I think in the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen that shift. So the support in Virginia, in Washington, D.C., and in this local market.
Sorry, I'm trying to do a screenshot of a comment from Ems Bianca was like, NYC needs to get behind Virginia too, and I fully.
Well, you know what's funny, Jeff, is, and this is kind of one of the things that we have quite a few customers. We sell most of our wine to our mailing list, and basically we call it our wine club, and we use the word ambassadors, and they really are kind of ambassadors. They go out and promote, Virginia wines. It's unusual to be selling over $100 bottle of Virginia wine, but we have several bankers in New York City. And they love serving our wine blind to their friends. And they say, okay, hey, Jeff, guess what this is from? And people, I hear the stories afterwards. They guess, oh, I think this is a very ripe Bordeaux wine, or maybe this is a classic Napa Cab. And they're like, nope, it's from Virginia. And they're super proud, right? It's the East Coast. So it's been really encouraging for me to get the support. I love, it's crazy times now, but it's an honor for being in New York restaurants.
And I got to tell you that people from Virginia are very proud to be from Virginia. And I know all of my friends that are from Virginia always speak highly of it and very supportive. And that's pretty cool too.
Yeah.
I want to come back about the direct to consumer line that you have, but I want to ask you kind of climate wise and then a little bit geography. What Cabernet region are you most like? And then if I taste your Cabernet, how do I know it's from Virginia and not Napa or Bordeaux?
Oh, good question. Well, we need to get you some wine. Let's. So you start with that. So, and it's going to sound like a marketing answer, but I mean this sincerely. I think we're kind of the balance of both worlds, and it's difficult to pigeonhole one or the other. I will say, because we have rain during our growing season, that viticulturally we compare more to the old world, or specifically that of Bordeaux. So when we talk to viticulturists, we have more in common, or more like comparing notes because of the rain. And when you go out, what I mean by that is when you go out to California, like the top growers and viticulturists, a lot of the conversation talks about what's it called, irrigation. And we have irrigation in extreme cases, but we typically don't do that. But in California, it's deficit irrigation. Is how do you manage the water, and we don't. That's typically not an issue for us. So I would say growing wise, I think we end up a little bit more of the Bordeaux. But in the style of the wines, why I say we end up in the middle is because I think what I would argue again is market capture the best of both worlds. I think when you taste our wines, we definitely have more fruit, a little bit more of that, power right up front, so a little bit more Napa-like than Bordeaux wines. But then we also still have tension in the wine and austerity. So sometimes words that people don't like to hear, but I think that those are hallmarks to me of great wine. So, and that kind of is a little bit more old world, a little bit more minerality in the wines. We just opened a 2010 and 11 yesterday from our vintages, and to me, I definitely would say they were more old world in style than Napa.
I want to tell you, there's a winery in Greece that is on here saying hi, Osira Winery. I don't speak Greek, so I apologize for the butcher. And then ML Cummings represents you in PA, and they were agreeing with everything you said.
Nice.
What's the window on drinking your wines? Are they good right out of the gate, or is it best to hold on to them, or you decant? What's the best time and way of drinking your wine?
But that's another one of those loaded questions, right? But I'm good friends with the winemaker at Chateau Latour, and she taught me a really important lesson, Elaine. And I've had the privilege of tasting many of the vintages there. And right out the gate, Jeff, like when we do blind tastings and we have kind of this little club there, and everything was what's done is said in the room, but it's all blind, and there are other second growths and. It's a mixed thing, but you taste the Latour Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's blind. You don't even know which one it is, but you're like, everyone will agree. Because usually when you do wine tastings, a handful of people prefer one wine over the other, and it's kind of I don't know, it's not so black and white. But in this clear-cut thing, everyone is like, oh, that's something very special. And it's special out of the gate. There's something unique about it. So my argument is a little bit that great wines are always great from the beginning. For sure, they can close down a little bit. To me, it's more the question of how do you want to enjoy your wines? Are there certain people, like Case, who we talked about earlier, he loves older wines. He loves that kind of tertiary flavors in the wine. He likes that leather, the pencil shaving. That's what he's looking for. He likes it when the tannins are resolved. And super polished and become extra silky. I drink a lot of younger wines, so for me, like I'm drinking now 2009, 10 Bordeaux's. That to me is a nice window. I still get capture the fruit, but they've lost a little bit of that primary oak or of it, and I think that's with our wines too. So I'd say I like our 12 and 10 are the two that I think are drinking very well now. But from a marketing perspective, you want everyone to buy the wine on release and drink
Yeah,
it.
and let them talk about it a little bit if they need.
Yeah.
I want to say Dean Brown, who you probably know from DC, and then Melanie just joined here. Valerie Feister just came on, so I
Oh,
want
hi,
to say
Melanie. I mean, you know what Melanie did? I remember she had this great like board that she made because one of the things we had to do was count the amount of each berry. I had to weigh the berries and measure their sizes. So Case was an anal in a good way, a very a scientific professor person. So she made this cool board where we had to put 100 berries and it was like a marble board. So I have
that's
many fond memories.
that's so cool. So I want to ask about how what's been the Corona situation there, but I want to start with so a lot of restaurant or a lot of wineries that say some sell 80% to restaurants and 20% to retail. They've been really caught by this and been scrambling to sell direct on their website. I found California is probably has survived the best because they're kind of a third direct in their mailing list, a third restaurant, and third retail, and they've weathered the storm the best. How has that affected you? And you said you have a good mailing list that you are good with.
Yeah. So I think that there's two ways I look at it, and I'll first answer the production way, which is the easy way. So the production way, Mother Nature doesn't care about Corona, and it's kind of really we're living in two worlds, Jeff. Like the vineyard is marching along. We had a good bud break in April. We had one of our better growing seasons. Been dry, like I said, we're welcoming rain. So, the work or the people we work with, we're a little, everyone's separated at lunchtime, so small changes. But in the vineyard and on the production side, that's going as normal. Life is normal pretty much. And in fact, we're blessed. This is so far, we're on a great trajectory. But then you look on the marketing side and the sales side, and yeah, you're 100% right. It's affected us quite a bit. We kind of took our clue from Mother Nature and we went ahead and released we do a spring release and a fall release, and we did do a spring release. And out of our wine club, I think we had a 92% take rate of our ambassadors, our wine club members. So it was really special. And to me, that's one of the things I tell our team is like, let's really, commit all of our resources to growing that list and taking care of those people. So as soon as now we're opening them up a little bit, we have like these little pods all around. Everyone's private tents and stuff, but we're catering to our wine club members, and so we're super grateful for them, and that to me is kind of a core of our business. So I'd say about our wine sales, that's about 90% of our wine gets sold there, and then the other 10% is saved for restaurants, and for us it's very important to showcase it's sad, but I had to feather my cap when we were on the wine list at 11 Madison Park. I know they're not open, but that to me was a great thing to say, hey, look at this little winery in Virginia is on, one of the greatest restaurants in the world's list. How cool is that? So that's kind of more of a marketing thing, and we'll hopefully continue to do that and expand, be in New York, Florida, California, but in all selected restaurants. But it's more for branding purposes.
Right. But what you were saying about the vineyard, when I first started this project, I left the city and I was a little depressed, and I was talking to a friend in Gaillac in Southwest France, and I said, what are you, they had to have papers to show the gendarme when they drove anywhere. And I said, how is it affecting you? And he said, Jeff, I just ordered some Chenin vines. I got to plant them tomorrow. With the Corona or without the Corona, the vines don't stop. And it's a very optimistic viewpoint to just say the vines don't stop. And it reminds us that you guys are out there doing the work, thinking forward to next year, making wine for us to keep getting through this with. So thank you for all that.
No, but it's really not. I mean, Mother Nature is really a powerful, force, right? And it just shows that, hey, we just, like you said, tough times never last, tough people do. And I think the vines remind us of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. We have a few minutes left, but did I miss anything? Do you want to tell us anything that I missed about the domain, the state, yourself? Anything you want to share with people?
No, I mean, I would just welcome everyone who's watching. You know, in the fall right now, obviously we can't ship wines because of the heat, but to be, you know, come part of our wine club, or you know, at least come out and visit us. I think, you know, to me, what I love about the wines of the world today is that, with Corona, you see what a small world it is, right? It's a global pandemic. But I think one of the things with the wine, you mentioned wine, you know, from Greece, from the south of France, Gaillac. These are regions that, I don't know, 20 years ago, no one would be drinking from them. And I think that that's one of the things that I love about the wine world today, is that it's not just Bordeaux, Napa, Burgundy, but you have, you know, Alsace now. You know, they're all coming to the forefront because, you know, they have the traditions of making great wines. So to me, I think that it's a great time to be a wine consumer, and be able to taste all these different expressions of different places of the world.
Yeah, for sure. I have another question before I let you go. Very often when you have a dynamic producer like yourself who's very interesting and having a glass with some of your wine is like having a conversation or communicating with you. And how do you balance that you're the person that's the energy behind the domain, but you're also letting Virginia shine itself through your wine? And there's sometimes a balance of like, well, that's not what's traditional, this is what I want to do. And how do you manage that?
Well, first of all, I would argue that I have a great team. It's definitely not just me. You know, and it goes everywhere from our enologist Eric Boissonneau, who does the blending for, you know, the 4 of the 5 first growths, and, you know, 80% of the classified chateaus Medoc, and, you know, he does all, you know, with his only American clients. So, you know, you have that rock star helping us out, but then you have our you know, VP of communication. She came from the Inalita, Washington. My partner wife, she does our social media. So we have a whole, our winemaker Joshua, who's been with us from the beginning, our vineyard team. So it's a great group of people helping RdV. So it's definitely not just me. And then the other one thing is, I typically, it's kind of bad, Jeff, I never end up drinking my own wine. For surely in technical tastes do, but I just think there's so many great wines of the world, and I wish that the alcohol wouldn't get in the way, but I'd love to drink a lot more. And so I end up, we always do a lot of comparative tastings, and just a lot, you know, my new fascination, I went 2 years ago to Barolo and Barbaresco area, and I have just fallen in love with those wines, and I can't get enough of them. So
Yeah.
it's hard. I definitely am not one of those. When I go to a restaurant, you know, I hear some winemakers saying, "Oh, you have to order your own wine." I'm like, why would I do that? There's a breadth of wine out there. So
That's your job, tasting those wines, and I'm sure you enjoy them, but it's also, you can't make it without knowing what your competition is, or what makes the best Nebbiolo, what makes the best whatever. So you have some interesting people on here. I want to thank all the media people in Virginia Loves Wine. And somebody asked if your tasting room is open, and then somebody else replied that yes, your tasting room is open by appointment through your website, correct?
correct. Yeah. So we, like I said, the beginning when we first opened up, it was 100% geared towards our wine club members, but now we've opened it up a little bit to by appointment for a tour and tasting.
And then someone go on today to your website and buy wine, or they can go on and join your wine club and get when the next release comes out?
You can go, I think, on to today and purchase. We make 2 wines, so we have our flagship wine, which is called Lost Mountain, and then we have another expression of our site, which is Rendezvous, and I believe Rendezvous is for sale on our website.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I was a little nervous about meeting the famous Rutger that was a Marine, and
no one believes that I'm a Marine with my hair and this shabby beard. I have a friend of mine who is, it's kind of funny, like when I got out of the Marine Corps, I thought I was done with that world. And, you know, but there have been so many military people who've come visited the winery. And there's one person in particular who I've become really good friends with. And he's a 3-star Marine general, General Keyes. And I think I'm a complete disappointment to him. My appearance and my demeanor. So, but no, it's been great.
You're a farmer now, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's a pleasure to thank you so much for your time and for teaching us and just seeing into the winery there. I really appreciate it, and I hope you get just enough rain.
Thank you, Jeff, and please come down. You know, when this whole thing get the new normal, I would love it if we could share a glass of wine in person together.
forward to it. Thanks again so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.